was thinking about the profile of West Ham and the type of players that we can attract. And it was a thought process of reading some of the comments in the video that I did about James Ward-Prowse when I said, maybe he wouldn't be the worst player in the world, and it might work. Not my choice, but sort of you'd have to get behind it, I guess, wouldn't you? But I did think the signing lacks imagination. It's the sort of same thing of going for Rafa Benitez and Sean Dyche as manager. You don't require any imagination, no invention, you're not scouting, really, are you? No scouting involved in James Ward-Prowse. And I really like that player, Yunus Musa. I said for Real the other day, it's Valencia, from Valencia. Really, really good player. USA international, came up for a week, but he played for England schoolboys, actually. But I think he's exactly what we need. I think we're lacking athleticism in the midfield. You'll know this, I say it often enough. But a player like that, I would really like to bring to West Ham. Now, I don't think you necessarily have to convince him and tell him who West Ham are, because he did a lot of his schooling in England. He came through Arsenal's academy. But players on the continent are going to want to know before joining what a club's like. Well, West Ham have forged a new reputation. That's because we've won the Conference League. And last season we brought in some players, I think, off the back of our European campaign and getting to the semi-final. Lucas Paqueta would be a case in point. Slightly different maybe because he played against us and Emerson was here. But Lucas Paqueta would have very much seen West Ham 6th place finish, a 7th place finish, semi-finals in the Europa. Honestly, I call it Europos Cupos. There's so many. Honestly, it's so tenuous. I hate that name, by the way. The UEFA Europa Conference League. It sounds crap. I'm pleased. Trophy's lovely. Ain't a trophy gorgeous? Sorry, I digress. Somebody asked the other day, where are they going to display it? We probably don't have a trophy cabinet in the London Stadium. I don't know. I'd love to be able to see it, though. Do we get to see it as fans? Do you know, I actually got to hold the FA Cup when I was younger. They brought it round. John Lyle and a few of the players brought it round to my school. No, it wasn't my school. Did it to every school in and around where we used to live. Took it round to all the local schools. I don't think you're going to bring it round. I don't think you're going to bring the Conference League trophy round my house for me to hold. I'd love to. I wonder if Levy. But do we get to go and see it? I want to go and see it. Anyway, I digress. My point of the matter is we won the trophy. Great trophy. Lucas Paqueta knew exactly who we were. But I think now, if you're a player on the continent, you're going to know who West Ham are. And that really surely should put us in a position to be able to go and get some of the players. We've got a global reputation now. That much is for sure. Also, you also got to factor in, we always find this out when we speak to opposition fans of, who are overseas fans. It's very much an English snobbery towards, I think, the two lesser European tournaments. And I would factor myself into that, by the way. I was the very epitome of that English snobbery. Until we got into the Europos Cupos, I thought I wasn't interested. I really wasn't. You could go back and find numerous videos of me saying, not interested, don't want to be in it, it's a load of rubbish. It's not viewed, I've changed my mind, obviously I've changed my mind. It's viewed very differently on the continent. So, whilst there might have been a lot of rival London clubs calling West Ham's victory hollow and calling it a tin pot trophy and just basically trying to belittle the trophy win, it's not seen that way on the continent. It's seen as a good thing. It's really, really given us a lot of credit. I mean, we're very high in the coefficient rankings, extremely high. I'm not sure. I think we're certainly one of the top few teams because we've had 2 really good seasons in Europe. That matters. That counts if you're a player looking to join a club. So, much as I would get behind James Ward-Prowse if he did sign, I'd rather we didn't go. I hate the age dynamic of him anyway. I've said that numerous times, but I'd rather we didn't go and get these players who are already established. I want us to go and get young players. And I think that's one of the reasons why, when we were looking at, people coming in and Tim Steeden and another, I think it was when Paul Mitchell was being linked with us. I like that. I think if we get the Declan Rice money, we've got to invest it wisely. And we've got to buy young players. That's the point. And whilst I don't think we can go out and get the very, very best players, I do think we can get bloody good ones. Really bloody good ones. Can we go out and get Jude Bellingham now? No, because he's a £100 million player. We can't buy the £100 million midfielder. Alas, we have to sell £100 million midfielder. But we can go out and get what Jude Bellingham was when he went and signed for Borussia Dortmund. There is a little thing that's holding that back slightly, and that's David Moyes, in as much as David Moyes doesn't have a reputation for bringing through young players. That might hinder us. But that's, David Moyes isn't going to be here forever, and it looks like the infrastructure of the club is changing us. But my point is, we can bring in some of the very best players. So if you're not quite good enough to play for Real Madrid, if you're not quite good enough to play for Manchester City, that you can still be a very, very good player, then I do think that West Ham does become a viable destination. I really do. And I think a lot of the agents will be looking at it and looking at West Ham and not having to sell the concept of that to their clients. I spoke to Barry Siltman after we signed Lucas Paqueta. And when we did, I thought I'd switch to Paqueta. I'm flip-flopping on that as well. I've been accused of flip-flopping a lot, by the way. I think Siltman didn't have to sell the concept, didn't have to sell the club and who we are, the identity of the club, but I just think he had to get the deal over the line. He sold the concept. He said this was a good stepping stone. Was I spoke to Barry directly about it, and he closed the deal. I remember him alluding to the fact and talking about, because he's been involved in a lot of West Ham deals, how the profile of the club in Europe has probably made his job a little bit easier if someone says to him, can you go and get that player? And that was 12 months ago that I spoke to him on that issue. It's going to be even bigger now. It's going to be even better now. So I hope we do go out there and we're brave in our recruitment. I hope we're able to actually not think we've got to go a little rung down. We've got to go for the next best. Because, I mean, there are a lot of players. I do wonder now. I think the money was a little bit different, but there's been 2 or 3 times recently. 3 players stick in my mind. Darwin Núñez. I know he hasn't had a great season at Liverpool, but we were in for him and he went for big money. Darwin Núñez. Calvin Phillips. Don't want him, by the way. Let me just say that. But I'm using these as examples of times we went for players and turned us down. And Rafinha. I think it was easy for them to turn us down. And they hadn't gone to the big clubs yet. I don't, it's a bit insulting maybe not calling Benfica a big club, but they're not a European giant. They can't pay the wages. That's the point. They eventually, these guys want to go and earn big wages. Calvin Phillips was moving from Leeds. Rafinha, I was going to move from Leeds. Darwin Núñez from Benfica. West Ham went in for him. We never had a realistic chance. I know myself included. Said, look, come on, let's go and bid. Let's do higher bids for them. But I think even if we'd have bid higher, we wouldn't have got them. We weren't a viable option. Now, I'm not saying, by the way, Rafinha went to Barcelona that we're more attractive than Barcelona. Of course not. But I think we become more of a consideration. I think Calvin Phillips now, I think I don't want to get too much to Calvin Phillips. I think we speak about him far too much. But my point in the matter is, at that time, it might have been more of a consideration. And this is where the profile of the club's changed. Because I think if you had 2 key things that you were going to ask, well, probably 3 if you were a player. 3 key things. Go to the Premier League, go to this team. I'm talking about West Ham, obviously. Am I going to get the money? The answer is going to be yes. You're going to get the wages. We're good at wasting money. Number 2, am I going to be able to go to that club and get selected for my international team? Absolutely. Yes. The answer is yes. Paqueta plays for Brazil. Bowen has got into the England team while he's been at West Ham. Hey, Mikel Antonio's got into 2 separate countries while he's been in a West Ham team. Declan Rice got into the England team when he was at West Ham. Thilo Kehrer, Areola, and I don't wish to belittle any of the other countries, but these are big, what you'd call sort of Pool 1 nations, top-ranked nations. Fornals got in the Spain squad whilst he was at West Ham. Spain, Brazil, Germany, England. These are, some of the top countries, the countries that contest Brazil. Italy, of course. So that's the second question. Can I play? Is going to West Ham going to mean I lose out on playing international football. No, no, no. Not at all. The international managers come and watch West Ham. They'll do that. It's not a problem. It's not seen as a step down. Number 3, do I have the opportunity to go to West Ham, play European football and win trophies? The answer is yes.